So if you are a musician, you've probably heard it 100 times, being in the entertainment industry, when you're going to get a real job or when is that music going to start making you any money, right? Or maybe, if you've even caught yourself thinking, man, is it okay to make money from my music? Is that going to hurt my artistic integrity? But what if those beliefs are the thing that's holding you back, right? Our guest today knows all about escaping and conquering limiting beliefs. Marshall Sylver is here today with us, and he's gone from I mentioned I've studied a lot about Marshall Sylver up to this interview. He grew up in a farmhouse in Michigan and got to the point where he has sold over $600 million worth of his products. That's absolutely incredible. And today, he's here with you to help you conquer those limiting beliefs that you have about selling your music and becoming a music entrepreneur. Marshall, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Daxton, so nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to kick this off because there was something intriguing about one of the interactions that we had on Facebook. You mentioned that growing up, you were in the entertainment industry as well, starting off with being a magician and with hypnosis. And you mentioned that many times people growing up told you, oh, that's never going to work out. You should get a real job. And as a hypnotist how powerful our environment can be in our subconscious programming. So I'm curious, what were the programs that you instilled in yourself to help kind of combat the environment that was saying, no, you can't, and kind of developing that self-belief?
Absolutely. And let me apologize up front. I've been on stage in seminar for the past 4 days. And if anybody here is a vocalist, they can relate to the idea that after that much wear and tear on my voice, it's a little bit raspy. I'm going to get through this. We're going to have a lot of fun and learn a lot of really cool stuff. And I got to tell you, even though it took a bit to get this interview together, I'd really been looking forward to it. Yes, we were dirt poor growing up. And yes, entertainment is the thing that leveraged me and gave me at least a start on the life that I'm living these days. And so for me, there's nothing I like more than helping my fellow entertainers make the distinctions that I had to make and the ones that if they don't make them, it doesn't matter how talented they are, they're always going to struggle. They'll either have to sell out to have their art known or they'll have to figure out the process themselves. So starting with that, yeah, I was a magician growing up and my father wasn't fond of my career choice and let me know. He called me a he, she, and, insulted me in any way he could just because he didn't understand it. He was a laborer. He was a direct migrant from Poland. So, he was very old school and old world. And for me, the moment that I discovered that someone would pay me to do something that I loved, my whole world changed. And it just boggled me when I realized, because I fell in love with magic at 7 years old, and it took me till about 10 years old to realize that people would actually pay me to do shows for them. So since we didn't have a phone in the house that I lived in, there was a town about 5 miles away. So it was a pretty hefty walk to get over there. But I could walk into town and there was a pharmacy. And I went into the pharmacy. It had a payphone. And for everybody that's young in this audience, a payphone is this box that used to hang on the side of a building and you'd drop quarters inside of it so you could make a call. There was a payphone there. And I told the pharmacist, if you will take the phone calls, if somebody calls in and answer the call and give me the message and I book a show, I'll give you a percentage of every single show that I do. And mind you, I'm 10 years old. So I'm sure the pharmacist thought this is just a cute kid. Then I went and put a single, what do you call them? We don't use them anymore. Newspaper ad, display ad. What do they call that? Want ad. Put a single want ad in the newspaper, and the ad ran. And sure enough, the phone rang, and the pharmacist gave me the phone number. I called him back, booked my very first show. But from that moment forward, when I realized that I could be paid, in fact, incidentally, I was going to charge $5. And mind you, this is decades ago. I know I look good. I was going to charge $5 for a half-hour show. And the people wanted a 45-minute show. Well, they weren't going to pull the wool over this little 10-year-old's eyes. I said, if you want 45 minutes, that's $7.50. And so that was my first professional gig. But the other thing that I just really want to, impress upon people is that, yes, you can be an artist. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to diminish my art for commerce. I don't want to be a sellout. And like you were saying, and it's stupid. It's ridiculous because if you're starving and you got to go get a job to pay your rent, you got to, bus tables or, bartend or whatever you got to do, then isn't that selling out? Wouldn't it be better if you're going to sell out in a way that has something to do with what you want to do? And so, for all those people that that don't think that art and commerce mix. Remember, show business is 2 words and business is the much bigger word. So figure out that piece. Figure out what it's going to take to eat chickens while you're hunting elephants. What do I mean by that? Take every gig. If you are aspiring to be a professional musician, or even if you're an entrepreneur, because every piece of advice we're talking about here will convey itself to all platforms, but take a bad gig until a good gig comes along. If you're not performing, if nobody's booking you right now, go bust. And you don't have any business coming in, if your phone isn't ringing, pick it up. Make outbound campaigns. Just get on the horn and just start telling everybody what you do, because if you don't, nobody else is going to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that perspective. I love be okay eating chickens while you're hunting elephants. Is that what it was?
That's what I said.
That's beautiful. I love that, Marshall. So you definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit about you, and so clearly you've had it from a young age. What do you feel that, the people that you've encountered all through your life, whether it was in your magician days, through your sale, stuff that you're doing now with Turning Point, everything. What do you find is the most common limiting belief about money that people are falling prey to? That's the most pernicious.
That it's finite.
Okay.
When money was based on something, when it was backed by something like gold or silver, precious metals, then there was a finite amount, theoretically.
Yeah.
But then fractional banking comes along, and the U.S. Treasury prints a percentage against what gold reserves we actually have. And then Tricky Dick Nixon comes along and puts everything on a fiat currency in 1971, which means there's nothing behind it. So I think the biggest challenge, I think it's twofold, especially for performers. And again, anybody that's on this broadcast, anybody that's listening to this later on, if you're the kind of a person that loves your art, then you're morally and ethically obligated to figure out a way to commercialize it. You are obligated to figure out a way to get it in front of as many people as possible. And the best way to do that is commercially. Not force feed people something, create it in such a way that they say to themselves, whatever this artist is putting together, whatever this entrepreneur is selling, I'm buying. And when you can figure out what that means, then you go beyond doing art for ego and you do art for purpose, in my opinion. I'll give you an example from the magical world. If I'm a magician, please forgive me. If I'm a magician and I want to do card magic for you as an example, I could show you card magic and I could do the effect in such a way that you wouldn't know I was using a trick deck. Now, a purist would say, no, I want to use regular cards, no trick deck whatsoever, and learn how to do sleight of hand. And it might take them weeks or months or even years to master what was necessary to be able to make it look like you could look with a trick deck. And from my point of view, it's not about my ego. Yeah, I like skill like anybody else. I like practicing things. I juggled when I was young, and I appreciate the discipline it takes to do something that difficult. And I especially appreciate it inside of music. All 3 of my children are all musicians.
Oh, that's
They
awesome.
all play the keyboard. One of them plays acoustic and electric. My daughter plays ukulele and electric guitar. So they're all musicians, and I highly acknowledge and appreciate discipline in anything. And I always tell, my kids even, learn all you can about technical side of music. Yes, be a great musician. Be the best musician you can be. And then figure out how to be a performer. Figure out how to be a showman. Because while people will listen to you do your music, they'll want to come watch you if you're a performer. And if you are just this excellent musician, but all you do is sit there on the stage and you don't actually do anything, guess what? You're never going to be able to sell concerts. Why was Kiss one of the most lucratively successful bands in history? Gene Simmons is smart. That's all Gene. And I hypnotized Gene's wife many years ago and got a chance to spend a little bit of time with them at the house. And Gene's just ridiculously smart. And, again, though, he's a smart enough guy to know we've got to package this up in such a way that we are one of a kind. What is our unique marketing proposition? And I don't think that, it always requires going that far into theatrics and costumes and spitting blood, although I like it myself. But I do think that it's got to be something that people understand. Is it the wholesomeness of a jewel? Is it the, deep Motor City voice of Bob Seger. There's got to be something that the moment someone thinks of you or your brand or your band, that they can identify with and can easily communicate to other people, so that you can get that conversation going in other places about that brand.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Forgive me, I'm a bit evangelical about this because I love entertainers so much, and it makes me sad to watch people struggle, especially because I believe there is a way to monetize everything you love. You've just got to figure out what that is. And then you asked me, what do you do? What do you say to the naysayers? There's nothing to say to the naysayers. There's nothing. There's nothing I could have said to my dad other than becoming a multi millionaire and highly successful at what I did. That's the only answer. Except their opinion of me does not measure me. That's the other side of it. So I don't feel a need to say anything to anybody. I have a brother that I went through 8 jobs in 8 apartments in 2 years. It got to the point where my family wouldn't even help me move. My oldest brother had a very secure job inside the government, worked for the post office, and got to the point where he would, pat his hand on my back patronizingly and say, "You really should think about getting a real job." And I didn't. I didn't want to do that, except I was willing to experiment. And I think that that's the other piece that's important, no matter what you do, is sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I spent years and years as a speaker attempting to get people to pay me more and more and more as a speaker. And same thing with the show. I would bust my butt asking people to pay more and more and more for the show. And it wasn't until I started doing basically, do you understand the term 4-wall?
No, that's
So what a 4-wall is, and it's used a lot in Vegas, although most places know what a 4-wall is. I go into a venue and I say, "Don't pay me. I don't want any money from you. I want to use your venue. We'll sell the tickets, and we'll either keep the money from the tickets." Or I would go into nightclubs when I was a hypnotist in my early 20s, and I would go and I'd ask, "What's the slowest week of the year, of the day of the week for you?" And they would say Tuesday. And I'd say, "How much do you earn on Tuesday night in liquor sales?" And they'd say $2,000. I'd say, "Okay, I'd like to bring my show in. Don't pay me. Don't market me. Don't do anything for me. Let me bring my show in. I want half of all sales above 2,000 though." And I'm 23 years old, so I got nothing to lose. So that's what I was talking about. Take a bad gig until a good gig comes along. And I would go in, and invariably I'd get these clubs up to 20, 30, 40, sometimes $50,000 a night. Week after week, I would appear there. And so I would, at one point, I was making about $80,000 to $100,000 a week working 5 clubs only on liquor splits. And so, again, there's a lot of ways to go about it. And the question I have for anybody that might have somebody else say, "Why don't you get a real job? You really need to quit playing around and get serious, get your head on straight." I think, again, the better idea would be to say, "Okay, how do I monetize this? What do I do? Do I write jingles if I'm a musician? If I'm an entrepreneur, once again, how can I find, some smaller clients in the beginning till I get the bigger clients?" And I just don't think most entertainers in particular, and even some entrepreneurs, entertainers think, if I just do my act, my music, my magic, my hypnosis, great enough, everybody will come to me. And I think most entrepreneurs think, if I just build the best widget, create the best service, man, my business will be amazing. And that's not it. You've got to be absolutely evangelical about your brand. You got to tell everybody about it. We've got studio money now down in Southern California, right here in Carlsbad, 31,000 square feet of entertainment and education venue. During the day, we teach educational events. During the evenings, we have cool entertainment, variety entertainment, magic. My kids do an illusion show to teach other kids how to be entrepreneurs, my hypnotic show. And it's a fun thing. But for, most people, the idea of transforming their art, transforming their entrepreneurship, transforming their vision into something different than what they had originally thought it was supposed to be, I think that's scary for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that initial jump is the hardest. I feel like, you touched on something really cool. I do want to touch on this before I forget, which is you took a very unique approach. A lot of musicians kind of, when it comes to gigs, they're like, if I can't get a guarantee up front, then I'm not going to do the gig. And I've told people, I did something very similar. We took gigs for free and said, the price though is we keep all of our merch. There's no merch split. And that's where we would make our money, is drive people in and then drive them to the table. And so you took a different approach. You said, I want half of the liquor sales. And so I want to remind people that one of your most valuable resources being a musician is your creativity and your resourcefulness. And Marshall embodied that perfectly by thinking, okay, well, how can I leverage these four walls? How can I find these four walls?
Well, and what you just suggested right there, consider it one more step. So you said, when we negotiate, we say, don't pay us. We want our merch. No merch split with you. And I think that's great. I think that's fair. But I also think that there's another confidence step to go beyond. And that is to say, look, what are you making on the night? What'd you make for the last 4 weeks on this night that you're wanting to book us? And they'll tell you a number. Say, look, here's the average number. Our merch just pays our bills. We don't make any money. It just pays for, our roadies and our equipment and all that we need just to stay together. Where we make our money is increasing your business. So we're not like any other band. Other bands just come in and want to ride you. We don't want to, certainly, yeah, we want your guests and your clientele to be introduced to us and love us, but we also want to do whatever it takes to get all of our people in here. Why? Because it increases the bar. And we want half of anything above the average you've been doing in here. We want to crush it for you, so you have a hard time thinking of other bands.
Oh yeah. And what was so cool about that is you identified a place where you could contribute value, because what I tell musicians all the time is ultimately the venues don't care about the music itself. They care about what your music can do for their business.
100%.
And so you've identified, here's a place where I can provide value. And so instead of the frame of the negotiation being, here comes this band that just wants to book out my room and potentially waste my time, this is a band that comes up and says, here's where I can provide value to you. And now it's a little bit more obvious why they would want to book you, because they see the value in it, right? So I love that, Marshall.
And it's important in the negotiation too. If anybody watching the broadcast or listening to this is in the business, it's important to realize that if every single time they've ever booked a band in there, a desperate, band begging for a gig, they've been able to grind them down. And over time, they figure out what's the bare bone minimum thing I can give to them. And, how much can I get back? And I think you have to establish it with certain things where you just say, look, I have to pay my bills. So that's what merch does. We wish it did better than that. That's what merch does. So there's nothing to split there. But we also, though, understand you're not in the business of, giving your customers away to somebody else for free. So we'd like to be in more of a partnership with you. We don't want anything you're doing already. We want to grow it. Now, if I'm a club owner, I'm excited about a band that approaches me that way because I've never heard it. And I'm thinking to myself, I make my money on liquor sales. How are you going to increase liquor sales? And then the band comes back and says twofold. Number one, we have a following. We have a mailing list, which is absolutely essential for every single band. If you're not collecting every piece of data from anybody that ever liked you, ever walked in and saw you, interacted with you, that's key. Better still, go out, save up your pennies and get yourself an app so that they can get notified with push notifications, know about you, fall in love with you, get access to your everything. But for the other piece of it though, is the bands that do decide to do something like that. If it were me and I was in there, I don't drink alcohol anymore. But if I was one of those people and I was doing that, I would not only book to my fans, but I would also build into my show. Again, it's a business and you just got to figure out what business you're in and whether you're willing to tolerate. I would build into my show people buying me rounds of shots. Me and the band buy us a round of shots with instruction to the bartender, make mine water. They can drink whatever they want to drink. I make mine water. I don't drink alcohol. And so now it's not the shots that you're getting because it doesn't even matter. I mean, the waitress could come up with a tray filled with water shots and say, guy in the back bought you a tray full of shots. And then we get the shots. Hey, we're not drinking until everybody gets one. Everybody get a shot. Come on, drink with us. And now you've built it into the show. And that is the outcome.
Wow.
Again, it depends on what you can handle and what you think is good or bad. When I went to Vegas, I loved performing. My main residence is still in Vegas, and I love performing up and down the Strip. Ultimately, I had a challenge because the shows are great, except there's one thing that takes precedence over every other element in Las Vegas, and that's the gaming. That's where they make all their money. And so ultimately, I realized that my job was to bring as many people in as I could and get them to go gamble. And because I'm a marketer and that's what I do, at that time, that's what I did for them. So I would put suggestions in my show that made people want to go out and have some fun and play on the machines. They loved me. They'd have kept me forever. But one day I just said, that's okay if somebody goes out and loses $50 or $100. But what if they go out and lose their house? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah. Wow. I will say, Marshall, that was very next level. I love that you shared that with us. Now, you said you're a marketer, and so I'm very interested in my research of you. I didn't find where you got your marketing training, where you sort of cut your teeth with it. I know you've got extensive expertise in hypnosis. So I guess the question is kind of dual fold, where was hypnosis the thing that allowed you to be such a fantastic marketer, or was it the mixture of your hypnosis skill with marketing foundations?
Who was the first heart surgeon?
I would,
An inexperienced heart surgeon,
interesting.
because there was nobody with experience. And so, when people will ask me, do you have degrees or what experience you have? First and foremost, I ponder what their true meaning is. And I think that you have a couple. I think you have a couple. Yes, hypnosis is what has made me understand the process of irresistible influence, without a doubt. That I have an unfair advantage in the marketing realm. Because I understand hypnosis, I understand what process you've got to walk somebody through to have a change of opinion.
Yeah.
Whether that opinion was that they're afraid of snakes, or their opinion is, women won't like me, or their opinion is you got to work really hard to make money. My job is to change their opinion. And so that's also what my job as a marketer is to change someone's opinion. Someone's opinion might be, oh, hypnosis, get away from me. Don't look in my eyes. And my response in marketing would be, I don't blame you. It's that powerful. It surely is. Except not believing in something doesn't make it not exist. It just doesn't exist for you, which means you can't use it and you don't know when it's being used upon you. So this would be a good idea to learn this. So you take the whole frame and you flip it. But the second part of it, my marketing experience comes from understanding that process. And like any other marketer that's ever become a decent marketer, back in 1994, I was watching an infomercial with a motivational speaker. God, what's his name? Big guy, big teeth, Tony Robbins. And I'm watching this infomercial called Personal Power with Tony Robbins. And I do a little research, come to find out they're doing about $3 million per month in sales. I said, that's pretty good. There's another infomercial, though, that's on a whole lot more frequently. It's clearly on a lot more than Personal Power was. And it was with a woman named Dionne Warwick. And the show was the Psychic Friends Network, where you could pick up the phone and call a 900 number in the day. And for $2.99 a minute, ask, do he love me? And talk to a psychic. And I did some research on that, and that infomercial was doing $30 million a month, $1 million a day.
Wow.
And so I said, there's something between those two shows. The marketer said there's something between those two shows. There's a show that's personal development of Tony Robbins, yet there's a show that's also the magic of the Psychic Friends Network. And I created a marketing piece, 28.5-minute infomercial. I wrote it, I created it, I scripted the entire thing, I produced it, and called Passion, Profit, and Power. The show, I produced it for $10,000 out of pocket. It went on in the first year and did 120 million plus in sales. So that's a decent movie. That's a good album. And certainly it was all about marketing. But in the infomercial and in all of marketing, you've got to understand you primarily have three kinds of buyers. And this is true on anything, no matter what you're selling: hypnotic tapes, restaurants, music, whatever you're selling. You have three kinds of buyers. Most buying decisions are based first on emotion and then backed up with logic. Mm-hmm. And the creative types on this call or listening to this podcast, the creative types are usually this type of person. I buy what I want to buy. I don't need anybody to tell me why I want it. I just want it. So I'm an emotionally based buyer, and I tend to very quickly read people, size them up, determine if I trust them, and if I trust them, I buy. Much to my chagrin from time to time, for sure. Yet that's my buying process. The second type of buyer is a logical buyer, yet they're also value-based. What do I mean by that? They're interested because they got emotionally excited. They haven't made a decision yet because the math needs to work. If I give you 5,000, do I get back something I perceive or believe will be worth 10,000? Done. So you've got to appeal in the second part of your persuasive process and in the infomercial to that type of buyer. And then finally, the last group of buyers I call spanky, because that's what they need. They are people that do not buy based upon what they want or what they need. They buy on a fear-based decision process. They need a spanking before they'll buy. So as an example, in the infomercial, after I do the first two closes, one on emotion, second one on logic, what a great deal this is. Then the third close was an image of me sitting on a couch near a fireplace, looking down the camera and saying, hey, if you're watching this infomercial right now, if you're still here, you want this badly, but there may be somebody sitting beside you, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe even your son, daughter, or parents, and they're telling you not to buy this product. It's just a scam. I understand. They're telling you all these people are paid actors. They're not real testimonials, and that this will never work. I want you to know they don't want you to win. They want you to lose, because if you win, you'll realize they're not. So don't listen to what they're saying. Pick up the phone right now and call. And it was, again, it was the most successful personal development infomercial of 1994 in the midst of Tony Robbins. So again, it's all about understanding what I call appeals. What makes somebody else make that buying decision?
Wow. By the way, go get your copy. Oh, my green screen.
There it is.
Yeah, Passion, Profit, Power.
Lovely.
I was on call with one of my one-on-one coaching clients in our elite membership, and he was about to tell me something that he learned, and I was like, yeah, before he told me that, I was like, I'm getting an interview with Marshall Sylver. He goes, I was about to tell you a Marshall Sylver quote.
I love it.
And he pulls out, he had the whole, from the infomercial, he had the entire Passion, Profit, and Power package, and I was like, that's so awesome, man. So you're already impacting musicians, so I'm glad that you're able to, provide this value so far. This has been absolutely fantastic. So you identified a kind of hole in the marketplace. You saw that there was personal development. You saw there was a huge interest in the psychic infomercial, and so you were like, how do I find the bridge between those? And I think for musicians, being opportunity spotters, when you identify a piece of marketing that's working, and this is going to actually bring me on to I was gonna ask you, creating that infomercial, right? There's many different ways in 1994, there's direct mail, there's, tiny classified ads, there's, all these different ways that
Thank you, Don Lepre.
Yeah, exactly, right? What made you ultimately decide, was it that research with Tony that, okay, infomercial has to be the medium?
Yes, it was that. It was a time. There was a period in the early '90s through pretty much the late '90s that infomercials were amazing, and not only I realize I'm also a bit dehydrated, my eyes watering a bit. So watching the infomercials during that time, that's how people sold things. The internet wasn't yet a big deal. The internet didn't really start coming into play till the late '90s. And after it started coming into play, everything got amazing. I'm going to take a break. Let me grab a real quick napkin. Let me turn my camera off, and I'll zoom back as soon as I get a Kleenex for my eye. 1 second. Hold on.
No problem at all, because that brings up something I want to share with the audience, which is Marshall identified the medium to which people were consuming information, right? So for us as artists, a lot of time there's this apprehension to something like social media content, right? We think, oh, because social media content, if I go post that, then I'm selling out, or I'm, just doing this trendy thing. No. That is the medium that people consume information now. So Marshall identified that the medium that people were consuming this type of information that was profitable was via infomercials. And I'd like to also add, music videos of the 80s and 90s were kind of like infomercials for bands.
Absolutely.
And so nowadays the medium has changed, and we have social media content. And so that's where I'm noticing, that's where I found Marshall Sylver, was through social media content.
So ponder that and realize that no matter what the format is, communication equals wealth.
Absolutely.
And so it's a conversation. My own children, they're 14, 12, and 10. So they're young musicians, and they have a phenomenal school down here in Southern California. And they teach great music. I'm a showman. That's what I am. I've been on the stage since I was 7 years old, and I'm a performer. And so I told them, I said, if you guys will be more than musicians, if you will be personalities, if you will have showmanship and show your personality, that's what make people come back. It's not about the music as much as you want it to be. And no matter how good you are, sure, it's a bit about the music. It's more about the person, though. And when they fall in love with you, you can have flaws. You can be Madonna, whom I'm not a fan of these days. In the day, though, back in the 80s, when I was, of the club age, Madonna ruled. And she would often say, I'm not the best musician or even the best performer. I'm the best package. I really just went out there and said, I'm going to reinvent everything. I'm going to own it all. I'm going to, make sure everybody knows I don't follow anybody else's idea of what I'm supposed to be. So think yourself, about any shows that you've seen that you really had a great time. Not just the music was great, but you left and you went, oh man, I had such a great time. Part of it was you felt like you got to know the performer, that they shared some intimacy or told some story, or, maybe something odd came up. I saw Luther Vandross in concert, and what a phenomenal musician he was. And I saw Luther in concert, and somebody had duct taped his stage, and it kept peeling up, and his dancers tripped on it, and then the guy raced out, taped it back down, and then somebody else tripped on it, and he raced back out, taped it back down, and then Luther tripped on it, and Luther looked down, and the guy comes running out to put tape on it, and Luther starts singing, too little too late to fall in love again. It was clear he was making fun of the guy that didn't do his job in the first place. So what is this? Probably 30 years later, that's what I remember. The concert was amazing, but the humanness of him not making it a big deal, making fun of it, having a little fun, and just being a human, that's what we remember. And I will also say this, and this is something that I don't know if your people will get this. I pray that at least one or two do. You got to fall in love with making money. You've got to let go of whatever this frankly communistic idea that capitalism is against art. Let that go. If there's anything like that there, let it go. Let people know that you are worthy. Let people know that you are the golden standard, or better still, the silver standard. Let them know that you have that prestige already and carry yourself that way. If it were me, and this happened a lot during my magical career and a bit in my hypnotic career, because I did the same thing. I had somebody contact me for a party, and the party was in a nice part of town, a very wealthy area. So anybody having a party there was guaranteed wealthy. And they contacted me and they said, I want to book a hypnotist. And they said, we only have a budget of $50. And I said, $50? Are you kidding me? You're in La Jolla? You have $50? Yeah, that's all the budget we have. I said, I apologize. My fee is $5,000. So that's crazy. And they said, oh, so sorry. Can you recommend anybody to us? I said, no, I cannot. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I feel bad for you. It seems to me like you're budgeting really tough right now, and you want your party to be good. I'd like to help you out. I want you to remember me. I'm going to do you a favor. Keep your $50. I'll come out and do the show, and I won't charge you a cent. I'm just going to come out and do the show. I figured I might make some contacts. People might see me there, right? Take a bad gig till a good gig comes along. And in due respect, the $50 wasn't going to change my life. I went out and did the gig. A couple of things happened. Number one, I got 2 more bookings at full price, $5,000. I'm getting ready to leave. I walk up, and the woman who had called me, she's almost in tears, and her husband's standing beside her saying, oh my God, you were amazing. More than that, my wife told me what you did. You're a smart man. Here's your check. He paid me the whole $5,000.
Whoa.
And so again, it's about, if I had taken the $50, that'd have been the end of the story. I'd have been a $50 hypnotist. But I didn't. I said, no, you keep your money. I'll do you a favor. Apparently you need the favor.
Wow.
Why not? I had nothing else going on.
That's incredible, Marshall. That's I hope you guys are taking notes and that you watch this episode multiple times, because there have been gems all throughout what we've been discussing here. So I have a couple quick questions for you about that stage presence, because clearly, and from what I've observed, you're a fantastic performer, and your ability to get people engaged is unmatched from what I've seen. So what have you found, if a musician's on stage, What are some subtle ways while we're communicating with the audience that we can sort of build in maybe some command, some persuasion, some influence? What would be some of your favorite techniques that you could pull out of your toolbox for that?
Yeah. I think all musicians should watch other entertainers. I think all entertainers should watch entertainers not in their discipline.
100%.
So, as a hypnotist, I always wanted to be the Liberace of hypnosis or the Michael Jackson of hypnosis, very, very flamboyant, lots of showmanship and production. And so I think it's important, based on whatever it is you want to do and however it is you want to play, that you look at people. You want to watch comics. You definitely want to watch stand-up comics and see how they interact. Is it Matt Rife? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yep.
Brilliant comic. So what is his gig? His gig is he communicates with the audience. He's not up there telling jokes. He's interacting. And so, as a hypnotist, as a magician, as a musician, especially because that is a form of communication, you want to have a lot of eye contact. Don't get so much into your music. You're not checking out the people in the front row that you're not making eye contact, because I tell you, they'll remember that. They'll think they're special. And I don't care if you're playing a lounge and there's only 30 people in the room. Even more important, you're going to end up with raving fans. They're going to bring their friends back because of how you made them feel when they were near you. I don't care if it's 20,000 people in an arena. If you see that, you'll watch. They work the front of the room. Watch Taylor Swift, whether you like her music or not, doesn't matter. That woman's a businesswoman. She's a showman. She's figured out how to market what products she sells, and she's working the audience the whole time. She's always up on the edge of the stage. As a speaker, as a trainer, if I'm going to do sales to a room of people, I insist they put a set of stairs on the front of the stage. I want to walk down and be in the audience as much as I can. As a performer, you want to figure out sometime, some reason, some intimate moment, something that can help you connect better with the audience, because that's what they want. To give you a phrase that will help you understand what you need to get to. You've got to get to a point where you let them touch the cloth and you're the cloth.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, getting close enough for them to kind of be in awe by the fact that you're coming down from the stage, so to speak, because that is sort of, we like our security up on stage musicians. Like you mentioned, we like to look down and just kind of be in the zone. But as you were mentioning eye contact, a memory popped in my brain when I was a freshman in high school. I went and saw my very first concert of my favorite band, Alter Bridge. It's the band Creed.
No.
They were a big rock band in the 90s. Their guitar player started this kind of more progressive rock band, and so I went and saw them, and the lead singer looked right at me, eye contact, and I remember that to this day.
Without a doubt.
It's so powerful.
And how many people were in the audience?
Oh, 300, 400 people maybe.
He looked right at you, man.
I was pretty much front row, and I was young, so he saw me and was like, yeah, he's rocking out, and I was just like, this is the greatest night of my life.
Because it was, and it is, and it's great to retell it again.
Absolutely.
And again, that's what people want. And I don't think, I love my children so much, and they're turning out to be remarkable musicians. And I don't think they yet have realized how much impact they can have on somebody else's life by performing. That just like, that rock star inside of Creed looked at you, pointed at you, made direct eye contact with you. It changed your life. It's why we're having this conversation. And, it doesn't matter whether you're 10 or 12. My 12-year-old boy rips. This kid is a master. He spends right now 7-8 hours a day on his guitar. He just loves it because he's excellent at whatever he does. And I guarantee you there is some 8-year-old kid in the audience that's going to watch him play, that's going to be inspired and say, you changed my whole life.
Oh,
and so that's the other piece. Not being financially successful as an entertainer is a sin. It's an absolute sin because it stops you from being able to give the gift that God intended you to give to the world, because you didn't focus on that other side. And again, I will tell you, I'm an ordinary human being. I have been blessed and I am grateful. I'm not smarter than anybody watching this show, except I got used to a nice lifestyle. I got used to living on the beach. I got used to enjoying a palace in Las Vegas, 17,000 square feet and private jets. And I have gotten used to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
The biggest joy we can ever have is making somebody else feel, yet at the same time understanding there's a value to that. You're valuable. So
I love that. Musicians, take that message to heart. You are valuable. So many musicians, I've had clients in the past where, they were surprised that someone would pay $20 for one of their t-shirts. I'm like, we can't view ourselves with that low of degree. We have to understand that what we do changes people's lives for the better. I mean, all musicians.
I would like to address that if you don't mind me interjecting.
Absolutely, go for it, Marshall.
Because it's pertinent, and I guarantee you some of your audience thinks this way, because I certainly did, and I know a lot of other people have. When I was a hypnotist and I was filling up these clubs with 300-400 people, comedy clubs, doing my hypnotic show, I also had products for sale. I had non-smoking kits. I had weight loss kits. I had, motivation, overcome insomnia, audios, and all these things. Yeah. And I had them for sale, but I did not offer them at my show. And my philosophy, my thought was that they already paid to come see me perform. Now I'm going to sell them something else. That's wrong. And I didn't do it. And then one day I just said, you know what, just offer it, see what happens. So I offer it up and I do really well. In fact, I make almost as much money selling the products that I did at the time doing the show. And so I thought, well, that was great. And then this guy at the end of the night walked up to me and he said, I'm never coming back. And I said, what's wrong? He said, that was disgusting. I can't believe you did that. You're just using me. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, I've been to your show 10 times. I pay for my ticket every time. I drink liquor every single time. I didn't come here to be sold something. I didn't want to watch a commercial. It was 2 minutes in a 90-minute show. And he said, I didn't come here to watch a commercial all night long. Okay. So for the next 3 weeks, I didn't do it. On week 4, this woman walks up to me. She's got a hole in her neck. She's talking like this. She's lost her larynx. And she walked up to me and she said, thank you, Marshall. You saved my life. And I said, what do you mean I saved your life? She said, you helped me become a non-smoker. I bought your kit a month ago. Haven't had a cigarette since.
Man, yeah.
The next week, I offered all my tapes up for sale. I stopped caring about what anybody else thought because I said to myself, if I really believe in what I'm doing, if what I'm doing is worthwhile and should be remembered, if what I'm doing could actually help people, if my music is so damn good that it really does put people in an awesome state, yes, you prescribe it, Dr. Music. Make sure they take that home with them because, yes, you want the experience that they had there. And you should be saying it during your shows. You should be pitching. If you're not, if you're low key, oh yeah, we got some CDs in the back. We got some downloads in the back. What do you guys even sell these days?
I know, right? Funny enough, CDs have sort of been limited to the rock genre pretty much, and they're mostly sold as a memorabilia item that the band will sell more than they are.
Oh my God, I feel so old.
I loved consuming CDs, and when it went digital, I was kind of sad because I had a drawer full of just CDs.
It's aesthetically pleasing, man. It's just
absolutely. You get to hold
nothing beats an LP. That's as beautiful as it gets.
We're still buying those, man. We got a whole case full of vinyls and stuff, and yeah, there's something about that physical media. But yeah, to your point, when fans can go to the table and take something home physically, they're going to remember that night. And they have a sea of black t-shirts, like I know I do. I've got all the band t-shirts I've got from So you may think like, why should I sell another band t-shirt? I'm like, it's not about the shirt really. It's about them looking at that shirt and remembering, oh, remember that one Saturday we went over to this place and we saw that band and they did this. All the memories come back. The joy comes back. And that's something we don't really take that as serious as we should as musicians, I think. We're very consumed by our art. We love our art and we don't think about there is so much value and utility to people's lives with.
So again, get back to it, man, because I'm on the outside looking in. If you love your art and the way that you can amplify your art is to help other people love your art too, and you don't sell them a t-shirt that, just like you said, hypnotically triggers them every time they put that shirt on, reminds them where they got the shirt, who they were with, what they ate, what they danced to, who they fell in love with. If you don't, you're ripping them off. And not to mention, you're just flat out stupid. I mean, don't work harder than you have to work. My gosh, be proud of what you do. Well, this is just a temporary band. We're not going to be together for You don't know that. Can you imagine the Beatles or, the Eagles or anybody going, yeah, it's not going to really last. We don't want to bother.
Yeah.
And your back of room sales in the seminar business is what we call merch. Your back of room sales can, when done properly, make you more money than you could ever make from any kind of a booking fee at this stage of your career, unless you're U2 or some major band. And you want to run on all cylinders, because the beauty of all the merchandise is you are paying other people to advertise your brand.
Absolutely. Wow. Preach, Marshall. I love hearing this, man. So I want to respect your time. I appreciate so much the value that you provided the audience, because I know this is going to change musicians' lives if they really take it to heart and start implementing it now. So to end this, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
I'm ready.
Gotta get ready. Here we go. So, favorite hypnotic command when selling from stage? Favorite one?
Oh, there's been so many. Yeah, by now one of the most powerful ones could be by now, just like that.
I love that. I love that. For those of you,
By now,
pay attention. What is the most dangerous limiting belief about money?
that it's limited,
Yeah,
that there's a finite amount. And what people need to understand in this day and age, where every major currency on the planet is a fiat currency, money is just hypnosis. Money is the perceived value that somebody else gives it. So your job is not to attract money, it's to create a higher perception of value.
I love that. All right, another quick one. What is trance?
Trance is the non-critical acceptance of ideas or concepts on a subconscious level. One person says something, another person believes it to be true, and then more importantly, acts upon it as if it's true. That's trance. Same thing true with ourselves. We say something to ourselves, we believe it to be true, we act upon that thought or that belief as if it is truth. It becomes truth for us because we did. That's self-hypnosis.
Wow. Is hypnosis on ourselves best done in the privacy of one-on-one, intense, focused, you could call it hypnotic meditation, or best in a group immersive setting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
It's kind of like anything else. If I eat healthy food, the same exact healthy food every day, steamed broccoli, steamed chicken, and that's all I eat every day. Well, it may be quite healthy relative to what most people eat. It's still going to lack in certain nutritions. So I'm going to have certain challenges down the road unless I add, vitamin D or vitamin C or other things that might not be in those foods. So hypnosis, number one, is constant. It's not just the session. It's not just the watching the video or listening to the audio. It's constant. So you get a message into your mind. Since reality is created by validation, we seek validation for that which we hold to be true. So we look for the evidence to support what we want to believe in the first place. So first and foremost, you got to work on your self-esteem. You've got to figure out how to talk about yourself differently, pay attention to yourself differently, quit beating yourself up every time something bad happens in your life, because bad things happen all the time to most people. And when you stop, having that pity party all the time, you go, no, I can deal with this. And I think that that's the biggest distinction between people that have huge success and people that do not. The people that do not think it was too hard. The people that have great success just figured that's what's required.
Wow.
What I'm going through, this is what's required. It's not too hard. It's what is. And so I think everybody out there, number one, savor the wanting as much as the having. In other words, enjoy this journey, enjoy the process. Remember the dumps you played in. Remember when you were praying that one person would walk through that door so you'd have somebody to play with. And then there's 50, and then there's 500, and then there's 5,000, and then all of a sudden you're a rock star. And remember these words, Marshall Sylver programmed you.
Absolutely. Final rapid fire question. What has been your favorite book beside your own on influence?
Hmm, good question. It's not about influence, yet it is a basis that I think is pertinent to this. There's a woman named Ayn Rand, A-Y-N, Ayn Rand. She wrote The Fountainhead. She wrote Atlas Shrugged. And she wrote a book that a lot of people don't know about or had never heard about, and it's called The Virtues of Selfishness.
Hmm.
And it's more of a, it's not really, it's not a fictional book at all. It's not a story. It's just concepts. And she talks about that selfishness is a really great thing and that everybody should be selfish. And if everybody were selfish all at once, that the world would be just fine. And I read it. I was coming back from Hong Kong. I'd been over in China for 22 days and I was extremely exhausted. Couldn't wait to get back to my family. And I'm on the jet flying back and I'm reading this book. And from the moment I read the first couple of sentences, I couldn't stop reading it because it was almost as if someone was giving me permission to be happy. Someone was giving me permission to live my life on my terms. And again, I'm a master of this stuff. And yet the essence of the book boils down to this concept. It's what they say to you when you're on a commercial flight. Ooh, dirty. When you're on a commercial flight and the flight attendant comes out and says, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, masks will drop down from the ceiling. Please place your mask on first before assisting the person in the seat beside you. And the reason's real simple. If you go to put their mask on, they're flailing about, you're not going to get their mask on. They're going to flail about, and because you don't have yours on, you're going to pass out. You're both going to die. But if they start flailing and you grab the mask, pay no attention to them, put the mask on your head, then you're safe. Now, as much time as it takes, you can put it on them. In fact, wait till they pass out because that's easier, and then put it on them. But that's the thing is, I think that again, and I really want to drive home the point I made earlier. I'm a $5,000 per performance hypnotist. They offer me $50 rather than getting upset. And I'm not saying you should do this all the time.
Yeah.
I listened. It was in a rich part of town. I knew they had the money. And I said, I've got nothing else going on. I've got no hard costs. I love my art. You know, if I'm a musician, I like playing anyway. We were going to practice tonight anyway. Let's just go do the gig, see what we get from it. But if I had taken the $50, that would have changed everything. So me just saying, look, apparently you need it worse than I do right now. Keep your $50. I'll come do the performance. I may have even said, if you like it, pay me what you think it's worth. But if you don't like it, don't pay me anything. Because again, that's coming from a place of confidence, no lack prosperity, no lack consciousness, just prosperity consciousness. And so the biggest element to influence, the biggest thing that anybody could do to become more influential is to have authority, know who you are, recognize you are a gift to the planet. Your music has purpose. Your art was given to you by a power that you may have never, ever, 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 ever tapped into fully and may never. Yet the small amount that you are tapping into right now is essential. It's needed for everybody, not just for you. And when you're evangelical about your music and your product and who you are, I promise you, nothing's going to hold you back.
Well said, Marshall. And I love that you brought up the virtues of selfishness because I think a lot of musicians struggle giving themselves the permission to pursue these things. Like we talked about earlier, there's all this societal hypnotic programming about not being an entrepreneur. Heck, it's in all these movies and all this kind of influence, right? But getting past that with what we talked about earlier, and then with what we're talking about here of giving yourself the permission to pursue what some may say, oh, that's selfish. Well, in the pursuit of building what you desire, building that life that you desire, there's so many people that will be helped and benefited along the way. And giving yourself that permission is ultimately going to lead to the success not only of yourself, but it will rise other people up with you as well. But if we
And I don't even think you should be thinking about that right now. That's the opposite of selfishness. It's all about you, damn it. No, I mean that because it's a pendulum swing. Daxon, it's a pendulum swing. I would agree with you. Most entertainers that I know, and particularly people in bands, meaning any kind of a joint venture or circumstance, they often are just always overly polite. And it's the people that say, no, I'm a freaking superstar. I am a rock star. If you want to come with me, come with me. But if you don't want to keep up, don't stand in my way either. I really, again, that's the attitude. That is what a superstar acts like. Oh, I would never want to be one if I had to act. That's not arrogant. I don't need to pretend I'm less than you are to make you feel better about yourself. I'd rather just be who I am and lift you up if that's what you're asking me for. I refuse to be humble. It was a glorious day for fools when modesty became a virtue.
Well said, Marshall. Thank you so much for taking the
You're
time.
very welcome.
Like, this has been absolutely fantastic. And for anybody out there that wants to go read more about Marshall, first of all, go pick up his book, Passion, Profit, and Power. Fantastic stuff in here. I got the program that you had on sale recently, so go pick up Passion,
Yay.
Profit, and Power anywhere you can. And where else would you recommend people go and check out what you got going on right now?
Yeah, they can come find out about our seminars. We'd love to have them come visit us down at Studio Money in Carlsbad. It's beautiful. We've got 4 venues in there. We've got a 400-seat theater. We've got a 30-space kind of intimate VIP lounge. We've got a virtual studio with a 24-foot wide, 10-foot tall LED wall for doing virtual events. So we'd love to have you come check us out. They can go to Sylver, SYLVER.com, and find out about all things Marshall.
Marshall, thank you so much again. And musicians out there, you've got the spark now. It's time to ignite that spark and go out there and grow your music business. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode, and I'll see you on another episode of Musicians Ignite. Take care, everyone.